Well, good morning, everybody. This is Tony from Macatawa Technologies. Thanks for being here today. Gonna wait a couple minutes, see if we can have a few more of our guests show up here before Andrew starts jumping into our virtual breakfast bites. Going to be talking about multi-factor authentication today. So trying to be as concise as we can with some of the information that we have about upcoming security threats and things we can do to prevent that. So as we go through this meeting this morning, you can go ahead and use the raise your hand button at the top of the screen there. We're going to be taking questions during the presentation. There will also be a time at the end for questions for anybody that has anything else that they'd like to discuss. Give it just a couple more minutes here. All right, a few minutes after, so why don't we go ahead and get started? The meeting today is going to be regarding multi-factor authentication, how we can add that to your environment to increase your security for your email. With that, Andrew's going to be presenting this morning. So at the end of the meeting, we're also going to be doing a drawing for a Amazon gift card. So thanks for being here. Stick around till the end and see if your name is drawn. With that, Andrew, take it away.
Thanks, Tony. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. So breakfast bites, but it's not the normal breakfast bites I think some of you are used to. So it'd be nice if we were sitting here eating breakfast, scrambled eggs and whatnot, but do what we got to do. So yeah, if you have a question anytime through the meeting, it should be pretty quick. Feel free to raise your hand. There's a button on the top. So I know you want to say something, then you'll have to actually unmute yourselves if you want to talk. Otherwise, you can use the chat in the side and ask a question there, and I'll try to get to it at the end. So as Tony mentioned, talking about multi-factor authentication, some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not be so familiar with it. So we'll start with the basics of what that is. So what is it? So this was added later, but yeah, it is annoying but necessary. That is usually the biggest feedback we get when we implement multi-factor authentication is it's frustrating. You just want to be able to put in your password and be on your way and do what you need to do, but necessary. So in short, it's gaining access to your resource by presenting two or more pieces of authentication. You might be used to just one piece of authentication currently, which is your password, and then you access. So this adds another layer. So there's a few different available types of authentication, factors we call them, so multi-factor authentication. First one is what you're all usually aware of, something you enter, something you know. Typically that is a password or a PIN. Sometimes on your phone it's a PIN. Usually when you log into your computer or a website, it is a password. Another piece of authentication could be something you have, such as a phone or a key card or a key fob. Last thing is something you are, fingerprint, retina scan. Typically, it's the first two options when we set up multi-factor authentication. We do have solutions for using fingerprint or retina scans. Well, not retina scans, but we do have solutions for fingerprint if you're interested. But typically when we set up multi-factor authentication, it is something you know and something you have. So why do we need multi-factor authentication? It used to be people would preach to you, you need a stronger password. You can't just have password 123 that's easily guessed. And that's still true. You do want a strong password, something with uppercase, lowercase number, and a symbol. But statistics are showing that more and more data breaches are occurring each year. And with these data breaches, we have personal information that gets exposed. People buy that personal information off the dark web. And you may have a very good password, but somebody else just bought it and they know your email and your password. So it's important to, one, maybe check and monitor the dark web, which we offer solutions for, to see if your password was stolen and give you a heads up, and two, set up multi-factor authentication to make it so that they cannot just access your account with just one piece of information. A lot of people will still use the same password for multiple accounts. So on the dark web, your password for your bank login or something, some other account that you signed up for could get stolen. And you might think, oh, that's okay. That's not my company login. But if you use the same password for multiple accounts, they can try that login that they found on the dark web on multiple different sites and then gain access to your account that way. Some of your employees might use their work email to sign up for personal things. So if they use their work email and their same password, they are at risk. So what should be protected with multi-factor authentication? Basically, we just recommend any accounts or services that are accessible through the internet and would expose sensitive information. That would include company VPN. Many of you might have a WatchGuard at your office, and with all the remote work, you use a company VPN to access those resources. So that VPN is open to the internet for people to try to authenticate and connect to your network. Another thing we like to protect with multi-factor is Microsoft 365. That includes your email, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, and that whole group of products that are also accessible from anyone on the internet with just a password if you don't have multi-factor set up. Another one that may be more personal or could be business related would be online banking, just to name a few. There are a variety of internet accounts that could be protected with multi-factor. So how do we get multi-factor? So different services might require different applications. Usually it's with an app on your phone. Some services might allow you to use SMS text messages to get a authentication code texted to you after you sign in. These are our recommendations. So for Microsoft 365, we typically will use the native Microsoft application, Microsoft Authenticator. It is possible to set up Microsoft 365 with other applications or even SMS text messages, but we find that the best experience is using the Microsoft Authenticator. For VPN, we recommend using WatchGuard's own AuthPoint application. We can help with both of these, both setting up in the back end to get you ready and helping end users get that configured and ready to go, because it can be kind of a confusing process. Other recommendations for like third-party services, most of the time when you go log into a like a bank account, I'll keep using that as an example. There will be options in your account. If you go to your account settings to turn on multi-factor, they'll call it MFA or 2FA or something along those lines. Sorry, we got a dog in the background. So those typically you can set up a third-party application within Microsoft Authenticator or WatchGuard AuthPoint. Those two applications will allow you to scan a code that comes up, a QR code, and you'll see it show up as a separate login or a separate token that you can use to log in. So some tips on using multi-factor once you do get this set up. We like to try to consolidate multi-factor to as few apps as possible. It's not always possible to completely consolidate into one app. I know I personally probably have 4 or 5 different multi-factor applications. Unfortunately, that's kind of the state of where things are with multi-factor right now. I think in the future, it may they may combine a little bit. One might rise up as a better option for having everything in one app, but you can make folders on your phone's home screen and you can put them all in one. Then you take 5 minutes each morning and log into everything you need. One big thing we see is when you get a new device, you want to make sure that you transfer your multi-factor tokens over to your new device. The app itself will have a backup function. You'll want to use that, and then on your new device, you will restore those tokens. If you don't do that, then you need to work with us or support on the third-party site to get your token reset for your new device, which can be a little frustrating. Be careful with push notifications. Should mention what I mean by that. So in multi-factor applications, usually after you enter your password to log in, you'll either get a push notification to your phone that will say approve or deny this login, or you'll get a text window that says to put in your code. And that's where you put in that rolling 6-digit code that might show up on your phone. It recycles every 30 seconds or so. So when we set it up with push notifications, that's a great option because you can just approve the sign-in request using your watch or something like that. But if it happens too often, like your VPN or something tries to reconnect, you might just get in the habit of pushing it blindly without thinking, hey, did I actually try to log in? So we usually try to set things up using the token, but if you do set it up with push, that's something to watch out for. Finally, tip outside of multi-factor is make sure you lock your phone with a PIN. Since your phone has become a source of authentication, if somebody happens to steal that, they have one of those pieces of authentication. Usually the app might be locked down even more, so you have to put in a PIN when you get into the app, but it never hurts to have another layer of security on your phone that you would have to unlock with Face ID or a PIN from the home screen. So that is all I have on multi-factor. It is a pretty simple concept. Just can be kind of frustrating to get set up and get used to. So does anybody have any questions? Looks like Andrew raised his hand. Andrew, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Andrew. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Fantastic. Hey, we use Google Workspace instead of Microsoft 365. What would you recommend for the authentication app for that?
I had not set it up for Google Workspace yet, but I know Google Authenticator is an option. I use Google Authenticator personally for some personal accounts, although depending on how it gets set up through Google, it may allow you to just scan a code in any third-party app. So if you happen to have the WatchGuard app already, you might just be able to go into it and add a token and then scan the QR code for Google. Reason that we recommend sometimes using like the native app like Microsoft is because they integrate better and work better with their own applications.
Sure. That makes sense. And just so you know, I tried to post this in the meeting chat, but it failed. I don't know if you have that locked down or if there's a glitch. Love it when the tech company has tech trouble. Just makes me feel better about my own troubles.
Yeah, no problem. There's there could be a restriction that we have set up, but that's okay. We'll take questions as well. If anybody else wants to raise their hand, if you have a question about it, anything goes, how to set it up. Bill? Looks like your microphone's muted. You'll have to click on your little microphone button there you go.
So mine's kind of observation that we haven't talked about here, but we talk about factors of authentication. Password is a huge factor of authentication because if anyone gets it, they get half of what they need if all you're relying on is username and password. So protecting your password, especially in a corporate environment, is huge.
Yes, good point. Password is still important to protect just because we're adding another layer of authentication on top of it. Doesn't mean you should just do password 123 as your password, thinking you're protected. So good point there. Still continue to have good passwords. You ask us about our dark web monitoring. You could have the best password in the world. If it gets stolen, they have it. So that's a good point.
I actually signed up for an account, and I can't remember if it was the post office or what it was, and they required your password to have multiple, whether they're uppercase, lowercase, special characters, numbers. They required your password to be a certain length, or your, not password, your username to be a certain length and have all those factors as well.
Yeah, that is something we see more often is having usernames require complexity because really your username kind of is a form of authentication as well. If you have someone's password but not their username, then you're kind of out of luck too. So yeah, I've seen that a couple times now. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Callie is going to take over now because we do have a prize to give away.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So I did the random generator, and Erica, you won the $25 Amazon gift card.
Ooh, that's
So,
me. Thank you.
yeah. So I will send it to you via email. So if you see like a random Amazon email, it's legit. It's me.
Okay.
Because sometimes it kind of looks a little goofy. So I usually let people know that. So congratulations.
Good to know. Thank you.
Good deal. All right. Well, thanks, Andrew, for going through the multi-factor authentication. Like you said, it is a relatively simple concept. It can be frustrating sometimes to, after it's deployed, it's just another step that you got to enter to get into your accounts. But it is, as you showed us today, very important. So if anybody has questions that you'd like to take offline, feel free to give us a call, shoot me an email. Be more than happy to go through any of this with you. But other than that, have a great day, and we'll talk to all of you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.